Hey guys, it's Abby. Welcome back to my channel. In today's video, I'm going to be showing you 7 TikToks of stories that have never been told before because people would not believe it. This is part 2 of a video I previously posted sharing TikToks from a trend started by the user Ashley Inc. She asks users to stitch her video sharing a story of a time you know you saw something, but have never told anyone about it because people would not believe you. If you haven't seen my first video, feel free to go check that out, but you don't need to watch these in any particular order. If you guys like this video, please be sure to give it a big thumbs up, click the subscribe button down below, and turn on post notifications so you never miss a video. I post every Sunday and sometimes Wednesdays at 2 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. And other than that, let's just get right on into the video. Our first TikTok is by the user Z the Witch. He tells us a story about a time when he went to a party and he knows he came in contact with a shapeshifter.
Tell me a story about a time that you know that you saw something, but you don't ever tell this story because you know that no one would.
I have a lot of these. Here's just one of them. And when I say a lot, I mean at least 10 that I can recall from the age of 4 to present day. And sharing them just feels, yeah, no one's going to believe me. So when I was about 16 years old, I was living in a place called Monroe, Michigan. And I went to a house party because I used to get in a lot of trouble and sneak out and do stuff like that. But anyway, I go to this house party and there's a bunch of people. It's some like rich she person that I wasn't friends with in high school, but I had an older boyfriend, which was inappropriate. But anyway, there's this guy that comes in, okay? This man comes in. He is ethnically ambiguous. He's tall. He's muscular, fit, but like lean. He looks like a vampire. He looks like some Caribbean pseudo, I don't know, from around the world vibe. Something about him felt old. And at this time, you know, I'm afraid of my intuition and my gifts. I use them to keep myself safe, and my radar was going off. And so I'm literally in a circle of people, and it's like this guy walked in, and you know, at that time I thought time slowed down because I thought maybe he's cute. No, in hindsight, everything slowed down because it did. And he was expected or something because he was bringing something. Anyway, this guy comes and I noticed time slow down. I feel like everything kind of feels muffled and strange. And I look at him and he's looking right at me, like looking at me, just looks at me, and it feels like longer than it should be because he just got there. Like, isn't he looking for someone else? And then it stops, you know, and he's like, goes about the party, and it's almost like time went back to normal. And somebody's like, yo, did you hear what I said? And I was like, no. What were you saying? So as the night goes on, everybody seems to be progressively like, I don't know, like drunk or something. It was weird. Like, I know that they were partying and stuff, but I wasn't partaking in that. Like, there were certain things being passed around I didn't want to be involved in because it's not that I was a goody two shoes. I didn't feel safe to do those kind of things with those people. So I'm hanging out, and then I go into the kitchen, and of course it's Mr. Vampire, Werewolf, whatever he is, dude, and 2 other people, and they're talking, and I come in, and then somebody's like, yo, come over here, meet so-and-so. Do not remember his name. Cannot for the life of me. It's like it's been erased from my brain. So I go over, and we start talking, and then somehow, which again, don't know how this happens, we get on the topic of supernatural stuff, ghosts of the area. We start talking about the Loup Guru, which is like the Wolfman of like origin from Canada and France and from Louisiana. Like there's different names for werewolves in different cultures, but specifically Loup Guru comes up. Okay. And I talk about how I went on a tour in the old haunted part of where I lived. And in the historical tour, they made jokes about the Loop Guru and how it was still around, and people from the Civil War era saw it. And it would come around at night, and they'd have to leave like raw meat outside and all this shit. And so I unwillingly, just for some reason, blurted out the words, "Oh, I'm pretty sure that there's one that's around my house in the woods behind my house, because I've seen something that I can't explain." And then now my brothers and I have had shared dreams of this like wolf or wild dog or werewolf thing. And we didn't know about each other's dreams until we shared them. Okay? So as I'm saying this, I can feel homeboy, the one that, I'm getting the creeps right now talking about it. I can feel the guy who, again, I don't know how old he is. I don't know I know he's older than me, but he seems old, like internally old. I can feel his like ear stand up. Like it's a genuine, like something about this conversation got his attention. Like it really got his attention to where he's like, "How would you know that?" And that's what he said. He's like, "How do you know they look like that?" And I was like, I don't know how I know. I'm saying I saw it. And he goes, why do you think it let you see it? And I'm like, that's a weird question to ask. Why would you ask that? He goes, because something like that, it only, if it wants to be seen, it will show itself to you. No one's ever really seen one unless it wants to be seen. And I was like, how do you know? And he goes, how do you think I know? I was like, shut up. The next thing that he said is what I just will never forget, and it's weird. And he goes like, you're all going to be like, what are you talking about? He goes, you know, when you were a kid and you would look out the passenger side of the window as the car was going really fast, and you would see or imagine in your mind the thing that's jumping from object to object to keep pace with your car. He goes, that's one of them. And if you saw it, then they let you see them. They follow you because they're protecting you. What? What? So I, of course, am like, how did you know that I used to do that? And he goes, I just know. I was like, okay. And I didn't know how to exit the conversation, so I made up an excuse to like go to the garage. And even though I left the room, I had to leave that party in the middle of the whole thing because I felt like no matter where I went, that somehow that guy was following me or watching me. And every time I think of him, or like even now, I've brought him up, I can see like he turns into like, it's like his face can turn into a wolf. And it's very much like, it reminds me of things that people in my family told me to stay away from. Like, you don't do this type of magic. You don't try to transform into animals. You don't do things for personal gain. Like, there's just a lot of, it just reminds me of one of those. It reminds me of, some people talk about the skinwalker. This one reminds me more of a different legend that I don't want to talk about either because it gives me the heebie-jeebies. But anytime I see crows, anytime I see wolves, and anytime I see my guide, which is the spider, I know to pay attention because of this story. Like, this is where it all started for me and solidified that animals are messengers and animals will be attracted to certain types of energies. And if you ever meet a wolfman or a lichen or a loop guru or something that is a hybrid, you'll know and you won't be able to forget it. So that's my story. Jesus.
I think there are a few things that are interesting about this story. One is that he immediately felt a weird vibe from this person. It's like he immediately knew there was something different about him and felt uncomfortable by his presence. It's not like he specifically did or said anything that made him feel weird. It was just kind of a right off the bat thing, which I think is when you should trust your instincts the most. The next thing that I think is very interesting is how the guy was very creepy is not really the right word, but it kind of does convey what I'm trying to say. Is he's very, like, I guess creepily persistent about certain things, and it's like he knows that Z knows, and he's trying to like play a mind game with him and trying to freak him out. I think that to me is like kind of a confirmation of the fact that there's something off or different about him, because it's like obviously he could tell that Z was onto him and was kind of trying to play into it, but you know, I'm sure he can't actually say anything. I think it was kind of just a game to him, and that really honestly freaks me out. I really don't blame him for like having to leave the party early, and good on him for like having the instincts to like recognize this person for what he is, and also just how he said before that he wasn't like partaking in the partying festivities because he didn't feel safe around those people. That's not necessarily a supernatural thing, but I think that is a very good thing, and also shows, I think it's a good thing to show that he has very good intuition when it comes to safety and his surroundings. So the fact that he's aware that, you know, maybe these aren't the right people to partake in certain activities with, that, you know, he's more in tune with his surroundings and he's more likely to sense things when there's something off about someone. Our next TikTok is by the user Ignoriental, and she tells us about the time she saw a 6-foot tall bird in Boston, Massachusetts.
Tell me a story about a time that you saw something, but you don't ever tell this story because you know that no one would.
I don't know why my last stitch didn't work, but I wanted to tell you guys about the time I saw a bird that was maybe 6 feet tall in Boston, Massachusetts. It was chilling in somebody's front yard at like 5 in the morning, and it was glaring at me as I was trying to walk to the bus station. My ex at the time was with me, and he just told me to not make eye contact and just to keep walking, because apparently he's used to seeing all kinds of other things like that, but I have never seen anything like that in my life. It had red, blue, and purple, like dangly bits on the throat, so it looked like a massive turkey, like thick neck and everything, just tall. Way too tall. And apparently there's been sightings reported in Philadelphia as well by drivers who just reported like giant shadows that looked like a bird passing over them on the highway. Yeah.
I'm kind of like picturing Big Bird, but with like purple turkey neck. I think it sounds like a kind of a cute creature if you're not intimidated by the fact that like, what the heck is this? Honestly, it feels very dinosaur-esque to me, and I think that does make it more creepy. I think dinosaurs are really cool, but also terrify me to my very core. It's really fascinating to me that her ex at the time was like unfazed because he sees things like that all the time. And then she says that there's people in Philadelphia who experience like large bird shadows flying over them while they're on the highway. And I know like Pennsylvania and Massachusetts are like very close to each other, so maybe it's like some kind of weird large bird monster that's hanging around New England. That sounds absolutely insane, but like it seems kind of like a pattern that there's very insanely large birds around the area. I'm not really sure what's going on there, but I'd really love to know if other people have experienced large birds in the New England area. And when I say large birds, I mean like what she's saying, like 6 feet tall birds or dinosaur-esque birds, not just like a big pigeon or something. Has anyone experienced this before? Because I think that might unlock a new fear for me. Our next TikTok is by the user Ingrid Bizu, and she tells us a story about a time when she was a child and she accidentally astral projected, or so it seems, and spied on her uncle and brother.
Tell me a story about a time that you saw something, but you don't ever tell this story because you know that no one would ever believe.
So this happened years ago when I was a kid. I used to live in Romania, and I lived with my brother, my uncle, and my grandma. My grandma at the time was working at the shop and she needed us to bring some stuff to her. And I remember my uncle sent me downstairs to buy some things. We had like a little shop at the bottom of the building. And it was April 1st. I remember that it was April Fool's. So I go to the store and I was about like 7 years old, maybe 7 or 8. I go to the store and all of a sudden I'm not in the store anymore. I am in the apartment and I'm next to my brother, looking over his shoulder while him and my uncle are putting flour in a sugar bag. And I remember thinking, what are they doing? And they were talking how they're going to fool my grandma. And they're literally like emptying the sugar and putting flour instead as like April Fools. And then I'm back in the store. I don't know how that transition happened, but I remember I went upstairs to the apartment and they had the bag ready. We were supposed to take that to my grandma. And I asked them, why did you replace the sugar with flour? And my uncle was irate. He went off on my brother like, why did you tell her? I told you not to tell her. And he's like, I didn't say anything. He was a kid too. I didn't say anything. And he just wouldn't believe him. Like, how would she know? And I remember like I was trying to explain that I saw them, but obviously they knew when I came into the apartment and locked the door and everything. So there was no way for me to see it because they specifically sent me to the store and they started doing this thing immediately. And to this day, I don't have an explanation for what happened. I remember talking to somebody and they said it's like astral traveling or something like that. But it was very surreal because I was there and they couldn't really see me. Neither one of them was speaking to me. And I remember just looking at what they were doing. Just a random event. And nobody believed me.
I don't really know what to make of this. It seems like it is an out-of-body experience, but I don't really know what the purpose would be because obviously that's a relatively harmless prank. I'd assume you'd notice that the flour and sugar have been switched before you actually put any into the recipe and ruin it. So it's like nothing bad, nothing dangerous. So it's not like her higher self had her pop in there to see something was happening because it was life-threatening and she needed to prevent it. Unless this relatively harmless prank somehow could have caused something bad to happen. You never know, I guess. But to me, it's just like, it's very interesting that it seems like somehow she managed to jump out of her body and have like an out-of-body experience to see this happening. There's really no other explanation to it because if she wasn't actually there, obviously if she's really looking over her brother's shoulder, they would have noticed, you know? If she would have come back into the house, they would have noticed and she wouldn't have just like kind of skipped time. So I don't really know what to make of this. It seems like she just somehow managed to connect to her higher self and like leave her body for a brief second. It'd be really interesting if she was able to figure out how to like control that and do it at will. And you know, that'd be a pretty sick kind of superpower if you're able to do that. But yeah, that's such a weird thing. And then how do you like explain that you just like jumped out of your body and watched them switch the flour and sugar? Like, how do you explain that? That just, it doesn't seem logical, but it's a really, really cool story. Our next TikTok is by the user Sydney Davis Jr. Jr. She shares with us a time where she runs into an older man on a bus who claims to know who she is and that she is here to solve a prophecy.
Tell me a story about a time that you know that you saw something, but you don't ever tell this story because you know that no one would.
16 years ago, when I was in high school, I was living in Chicago, Illinois, and I got on what I thought was my bus. But where I got on served a bunch of different buses. It was a multi-bus bus stop, and I ended up accidentally getting on the 151, which is an express bus. It picks you up there on like the water tower area downtown, and it goes express for a very long time and until you reach the north side of the city. So it bypasses the equivalent of like 10 or 12 bus stops, and then it drops you off at like the front the north side of the city. Of course, I didn't know that. I get on the bus and I scan my pass and I see that the bus is full. It is so full that people are literally standing and holding on to the bars, and there's no room to stand except at the front of the bus. I'm gonna have to stand basically right behind the bus driver. Also, as I'm clocking that this bus is super full, there's an old man sitting in the seats for people who are, like pregnant and elderly, towards the front of the bus. And he makes eye contact with me as I'm observing the scene. And when he makes eye contact with me, he has a visible whiplash. He does a double take like I have never seen before. Being a teenager in Chicago, I assume that means he's gonna be like super creepy and hit on me, but that is not what happened. So as I'm getting my spot hanging onto the bar, which has to be right in front of him because there's no other spots, he starts going, "It's you, it's you. I can't believe it's you. I can't believe it's you. I can't believe it. They told me you were going to be here, but I didn't believe them because we've been waiting for so long. I can't believe it. Lord have mercy. I can't believe it. It's you." And weird shit happens on the bus all the time in Chicago. And even as a teenager, I just knew to haha, yep, until it's safe to get away. I don't know if you guys have that experience where you're like, oh, this person is unhinged. I'm just going to haha until I can escape with my life. He just keeps going. He's like, "I can't believe it. It's finally you. You're here. I can't believe it. The prophecy was true. I can't believe it. Oh, Lord have mercy. I never thought I'd meet you. I never thought the day would come, but here it is." And I'm just trying to, keep the peace. So I'm like, "Oh, yep, it's me. It's me, all right." And I said something to the effect of, "Somebody told you I would be here? Because I didn't even know I would be here." This is also the moment where I can feel the bus is picking up speed and it's not slowing down to stop at the next stop. And I realize I'm on the wrong bus. So it's not looking good. And this man looks at me and he says, "I knew it was you. I know it was you. And they told me I would know it was you because we have the same birthday. They said that would be the sign. They said I would know it was you because we have the same birthday. I can't believe you're here. I can't believe you're here." And that's when I'm like, oh, okay, this is going to be easy. And I said, "Oh, the same birthday? That's crazy, but I haven't even told you my birthday." And he goes, "It doesn't matter. I know it's you. I know it's you because we have the same birthday." And just to keep him entertained, I said, "Oh, that's wild. When is your birthday?" This man dead ass looks at me and says, "November 29th, which is also my birthday." So now I'm freaking out. And I say, "Oh, no, it's not. You're just tricking me. You're just pranking me. You weren't born on November 29th. He shows me his ID and his birthday is November 29th. And I'm shook. And I am no longer thinking this is even the least bit funny or entertaining. And I don't know what I'm going to do because the bus is not stopping. And even when it does stop, I don't know where it's going. I have no idea where I'm going to get off the bus. Luckily, a gentleman not far from us clocks that something weird is going on. And weird shit happens all the time on the bus in Chicago, but he can tell that it is not good and that I'm really scared. And when I was 16, I looked like I was 12. I didn't even look close to my age. So he probably thought I was even younger than I was. So this older gentleman sitting down, it's clear I'm going with him in his mind. It's clear that as soon as his bus stop comes, he's going to show me stuff. He's going to take me somewhere. He's going to take me to someone or someplace. It is very clear that we are not parting ways on that bus. So the second gentleman leans over and he whispers to me. He says, "At the next bus stop, you're going to get off the bus. You're going to cross the street and you're going to get on the first bus going back in this direction." And I explained to him, I said, "This isn't my bus. I don't know where this is going." And he said, "Listen to me. You're going to get off the bus at the next stop. You're going to cross the street and you're going to get on whatever bus comes first in the opposite direction. And then you can ask that bus driver where you need to be." So this gentleman grabs my arm nicely. Like, he didn't like grab me like he was gonna kidnap me. And he starts pulling me through the crowd toward the back door. That way, if this other man tries to pursue us, it'll be really difficult for him to catch up with us. Meanwhile, this older gentleman is saying, "Where are you going? Where are you going? There's so much to do. There's so much to do." He pulls me all the way to the back doors through the crowd, and as soon as the bus stops at whatever the first stop it was that it needed to stop at, and the doors open, he pushes me out the doors. He shoves me. This man with full force shoves me out the door, and he says, "Go, go, cross the street and go." And so I like tumble onto the sidewalk, and I just do it. I just run across the street to the bus stop going in the other direction. And luckily the next bus to come was also a 151. So it just cyber shot me all the way back to where I started. And it didn't take, an hour and a half of bus stops. And I made it back to the mall, and I was able to get on the right bus, and I was able to finally go home. But to this day, I remember that man's ID was the same birthday as me. I did not tell him my birthday. I didn't have it anywhere on my clothing. There was no indication. I didn't even have my school lanyard on, so you can't even do the math. And even if he had, I looked like I was 12, so he would have thought I was, born at a different time than I actually was. But I have no idea who that was. I have no idea what he was talking about. I have no idea what the prophecy was. And I've just been waiting ever since to find out who the hell I am and why I was sent here. So if you know anything about a November 29th prophecy, let me know, because I'm just a little spooked.
There's a lot of weird things that happen on public transportation, especially in cities. There's a lot of weird people who will say the craziest things to you that will really make you think about it for days after the fact. But this is weird. Like, not normal city stuff weird, but weird. Because how do you know what her birthday is? Because the fact that he was able to guess her birthday, and not even, I guess he guessed her birthday, but it's his birthday. And the fact that he was able to guess that it is also her birthday, it makes me wonder. Sometimes I wonder if some of these people who are deemed like crazy or something have some special power and have just been somehow neglected by society. Like, you really never know who people are that you come across. So maybe he was a crazy person who just was lucky, and somehow it was a coincidence that they shared a birthday. Or maybe he knew something, was a little off, but he knows stuff. I don't know. But that is really, really freaky. And thank God for people out there who observe situations like this, like that man did, and was able to, help her out of it before anything could have happened. Because you never know, obviously, what people's intentions are, especially when they seem to be a little off. I'm glad she was able to make it home safely to tell us this story, but that is wild. I would probably be thinking about that and wondering for the rest of my life what happened in that situation. Our next story is by the user Perch Point. This user is a pilot, and he tells us a story about a paranormal experience he had at a specific airport.
Tell me a story about a time that you know that you saw something, but you don't ever tell.
For those that don't know me, I'm an airline pilot, and no, I'm not sitting in someone's grandma's house. This is just the theme of the hotel I'm staying at for the night. When it comes to haunted things, supernatural, people usually think of haunted houses or asylums, even battlegrounds. You don't think about airplanes or aviation. Now, for me to explain this story, I have to give a little bit of context. Back in 2006 in Lexington, Kentucky, really horrible incident happened. An airliner pushed off the gate and taxied to the runway, and they lined up with the wrong runway. As you can see, they were supposed to line up on the one in blue here, but they lined up on this runway, which was far too short. Due to this mistake, the plane ended up going off the runway. It didn't have enough runway to take off, crashed into trees, and it killed everyone on board except for the first officer. Just a couple weeks ago, I did my first flight to Lexington, Kentucky. It actually didn't occur to me that this was the same airfield where that incident had happened until after we had parked the plane and already let the passengers off. And I made a comment about it, and I was talking to the captain, and the plane was reboarding for the next set of passengers who were going to fly back to Chicago. And of course, it was a pretty surreal, kind of humbling feeling because it was a place where a horrible thing had occurred. So we push the plane back, we do all our procedures, we taxi out to the runway. The air traffic controllers clear us for takeoff on the runway that the Comair flight was supposed to have taken off on years ago. We maneuver the plane onto the runway, we clear the area, there are no other aircraft coming, and we line up and we're facing down the runway. Right before we take off, we get a traffic warning alert on our radar system. Mind you, there's no other aircraft that are in or around us anywhere near us. But our radar is essentially giving us a warning that there is a plane right behind us about 100 feet just sitting there. Now, granted, I've seen this technology kind of glitch every once in a while. It's actually called a ghost because it's the system that's just lagging and it thinks that the previous ping of your aircraft is another aircraft when really it's just a glitch in the system. But it sat there for a little while, and I remember I looked at the captain and I said, that's kind of odd. And when I said that, the hairs on the back of my neck started to stand up because it was just a very weird timing. So was it a glitch? Probably, but is it kind of some sort of comfort to know that maybe the passengers of the Comair flight sit there and watch over other flights? I don't know. It just makes you think.
Honestly, I'd like to think that the passengers and crew from that flight are there kind of watching over people and making sure that no one else makes the same mistake. And, everyone has safe takeoffs and landings. There's obviously a very real possibility that it was just some kind of technological glitch. But for me, I think it would feel very comforting to assume that, they're there watching over, making sure that we get on the runway and take off safely. And I do think that it isn't out of the realm of possibility. I think this one is a very nice story because it feels more like cozy and just wholesome, whereas some other ones are pretty darn scary. So I did really enjoy this story. Our next TikTok is by the user Miriam J. Hampton. She shares with us a story about when she was younger. She was driving home late at night after she had just gotten her license when she turned 16. It was just before 11:30 and she was racing home to make it in time for her curfew when she spotted what appears to be some kind of supernatural animal in the suburbs of Chicago.
So I never tell the story because no one ever believes me, and also I kind of question my own sanity. I'll be like, did that really happen? But I know that happened. I saw a girl's story time on here and it just validated my whole experience because she said this happens a lot in Illinois. So I'm from Chicago, the east side, and around the time that this happened, I was like 16. I remember just getting my license and I was so excited because I finally got a taste of freedom. I could do whatever I want. I can go wherever I want. And I was so excited, but my mom gave me 11:30 curfew. So I was like the type of person who would like wait until the very last minute to leave wherever I was at to try to get home on time at 11:30. So I remember I was just leaving my friend's house and I was almost home, y'all. Like I was like right around the corner from my house. So if you guys are familiar with Chicago, you might know where CVS High School is. So I was like on 87th, I was right by CVS, and then I remember turning left, right? And I turned left and I was driving straight, and it was like I said, it was like around 11:30, so it was dark outside, and I looked and I saw a humongous animal. Like it was I don't know if it was a panther or a tiger. It definitely wasn't a tiger. It was like a big huge animal. And when I say like I almost shit my pants, like I was like I froze in the car, and I was at a stop sign when I looked over and I saw it, and he was just walking. And when I stopped, it looked at me, and like we locked eyes, and then I just kept driving. I was like, oh my God, like I had to get home because I need to make my curfew or I was gonna get beat up and I was gonna get in trouble. So I was like, let me just try to get home and forget about that, right? And I was like, I'm gonna like tell my mom when I get home, right? And so I got home, my mom was livid because I missed curfew and I didn't even end up telling her. I remember telling my friends the next day and nobody believed me. So I remember like looking up, did an animal escape from the zoo? I found nothing on that. And like I said, like I lived in the city, so it wasn't normal for us to see like huge ginormous panthers or whatever the case may be, whatever animal that was. It wasn't normal to see stuff like that at all. And I don't know, like to this day I always think like, what was that? Like it was so strange. Like it was such a strange looking animal, like something an animal I've never seen before, an animal I don't even know if it exists. So yeah, y'all, like very, very weird experience.
I'm really interested by this one because this goes along with the very first story told by the first user who created this trend. If you haven't seen part 1 of this TikTok, I will give you a very brief overview. She saw what appeared to be a panther in her backyard in the suburbs of Chicago. And then later on that night, a man comes to her door who she believes to have been that panther, but in human form, aka a shapeshifter. This led to a man reaching out to her after she told her story on TikTok, saying that he experienced something very similar with his ex-girlfriend when they were teenagers in the Chicago suburbs, also having to do with a panther. And now here we have a third story talking about an animal, panther-esque, in and around the Chicago area. And to me, being someone who is from the Chicago suburbs, I am very intrigued by this because this, like to me, the fact that there are so many sightings of the exact same type of creature means that there's something going on there. There must be some kind of shape-shifting panther man in the Chicago area. Like having not 1, but 2, but 3 sightings of this creature is mind-boggling to me. It's very much giving like Bigfoot of the Chicago suburbs. Panther man. Please, 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 if you are from the area and you have had a similar experience, please comment down below because I would love to hear more about this. Our final TikTok of the video is by the user TrevaneBXTCH. He tells us a story about one night he was trying to fall asleep and he was interrupted by something completely unexplainable.
Story about a time that you know that you saw something, but you don't ever tell this story because you know that no one would ever believe you.
Okay, so I've always been unnerved by the fact that we have to sleep. It just really, it sounds so stupid to say, but it does not sit right with me that we are like unconscious for hours at a time at night. And on top of that, we go to this weird other realm where weird shit happens and all this kind of stuff. And dreams have always kind of freaked me out because I have always felt like I'm really going somewhere else. Like it just never feels like I'm in my body sleeping. I always feel like I'm on a journey. Anyways, this is all to say though, in the story, I am not sleeping. I am not asleep, right? This was in high school. I had just laid down and I am a person where it's like, I am not like a lay my head down and I'm out kind of person, right? I always just feel like I'm just laying down and like 45 minutes in randomly, I'll just go to sleep. I don't really like fall asleep like that. So I'm really conscious, right? I don't get like sleepy in the bed, right? I'm usually like lights out immediately, but it's like an hour after. I already sound crazy because I'm just, y'all, just walk with me. I put my phone down, I lay back. So I'm like, looking up at the ceiling, I'm laying on my back. And I close my eyes. Only about 5 seconds pass. Again, I was not sleeping when I laid down, so I'm completely conscious and awake. But my eyes are closed and my head's back. 5 seconds after, I feel like to me, like, like when you can just have a feeling, you just know what it is. So to me, what I felt like a long fingernail that came to a point. And I was just sitting there and then I just felt tap, tap, tap right here. Like directly right here. I'm getting chills telling the story. Oh my God. Okay. So I feel the 3 things, but I'm immediately not like freaked out. which was something interesting to me because one thing about me, especially at that age, I was freaking out about anything under the sun. Like I would have like freaked out, but I felt calm, which like made me feel like, like this isn't like whatever. And I immediately opened my eyes, and of course, nothing's there. No one's there. But I didn't feel alone, but I didn't feel stressed out. And that was really, really like odd to me. And nothing like happened from that. But I just like was so conscious and aware of like someone tapped me on my forehead 3 times. And then I like felt something, but I didn't feel stress. And it was like so strange. And like so odd. I actually forgot about it until like recently. I told my friend about it and they were like, that's like so like such an interesting location for the tap. But I swear, I promise, I felt it. It was right there. And who's to say what it was?
That is so scary to me. I just like tapped myself on the forehead a few times, and like that feeling is very different from many other things. Like I don't know if I'm the only one who does this, but sometimes I'll be laying there and I'll like feel like kind of like a little tickle on my cheek or something, and I swear to God there's like a spider on me, and so I'll like brush my face and there's nothing there. Like sometimes I'll get like little phantom like tickles, but there's a difference between like a little phantom tickle that you think is like a bug or something and like direct tapping on your forehead with like a nail. Those are very different things. And I don't think you can really make that up as much as you can like a light brush on the cheek from like, I don't know, a gust of wind or like a piece of hair or something like that versus a direct tap. Like that's harder to make up than just like a light, barely there feeling. So I have no idea what that was, but I'm just glad when he opened his eyes, there was nothing there because I would have absolutely lost it if I felt that. Like I think I would have kept my eyes closed the rest of the night and prayed for the sun to come up because I would be too afraid that there'd be some like scraggly lady standing over me. And now that I say that, I'm a little afraid to go to bed tonight. Time is actually, it's actually kind of approaching bedtime any minute now, so I shouldn't film these videos at nighttime, but yeah, I might not be sleeping tonight thanks to this story. I'm gonna be like waiting for someone to come and tap me on the head in the middle of the night. If I do, I will update you guys. Yes, anyway, that is our final TikTok of the video. I know this is a shorter one than usual. There haven't been too many of this specific trend that have popped up on my feed recently, but I did want to share these with you because I have had them saved in my folder for a very long time. So I wanted to make sure that I did not miss these. If you guys like this video, please be sure to give it a big thumbs up. I will pop a couple of suggestions on the screen for you for videos that you can check out if you'd like. Please click the subscribe button and turn on my post notifications so you never miss a video. I post every Sunday and sometimes Wednesdays at 2 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. If there are any spooky TikToks that you want to see me include in a future video, feel free to tag me in them. My links are down below. And if you are interested in spooky special effects makeup content, please check out my Instagram and TikTok. That is what I do over there. I am a makeup artist on those platforms. Even though I do tell spooky stories on YouTube, I love to turn myself into spooky things on Instagram and TikTok. So please go check out those platforms if that's something you're interested in. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed this video and I will see you next time. Bye.